What's up, everybody? It's time for another episode of the Takeaways podcast here for Vegas Nation. I'm your host, Heidi Fang, joined with my good friend here, Gilberto Manzano, who is covering things NFL staff writer with SI Now and the Monday Morning Quarterback. It's actually MMQB. I just said it and I just asked you about it, and then here I go messing it up. But that's okay. It's the MMMQB and also the co-host of Compas on the Beat, which just reached 1,000 subscribers. You and Fernando do a great job there covering just literally everything, combat sports, NFL, all the things that you guys do so well. Really happy for your success, Gilbert. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for that awesome bio, Heidi. Because now I feel like, I'm really bothered, as you know, before we start recording, I'm bothered by the darkness in the background. But
It looks great.
there's a spotlight on me, and I feel like with that bio, you put the spotlight on me perfectly. So thank you.
Appreciate it. I always still it's funny, like I'm not a complete native Spanish speaker, and you know that, but like I'm always concentrated so hard on pronouncing your name correctly because I don't want to be the one that messes it up, even though I know how to say Gilberto. But I still sometimes I struggle because I want to do it so
No,
perfectly
no,
anyway.
I appreciate it though. You know what's funny? Because maybe I already told you this, but I go through the opposite. Like when I introduce myself, I don't want to say Gilberto. I'm always like Gilberto, and then it really throws people off. Like, wait, what did you say? And I'm like, it's Gilbert with a no. I just play it that way.
There we
But
go.
it's a
But on the
dynamic
really
there.
big things, you used to be with us here, but really now with SI, you were doing huge national articles. And I wanted to bring you on because obviously the Raiders and every other team's schedule came out with the NFL last week. And you wrote an in-depth article breaking down the NFC side of things, and your colleague did the AFC side of things, which is fine because the Raiders happen to be facing NFC North and NFC East opponents. And I wanted to bring in discussion here on the Giants, the Lions, all of the teams that they're facing, the Packers, the Bears. When you look at the Lions, particularly, that was part of what interested me in your article because you're talking about the resurgent Lions, the way that the team looks now, how they're going to be coming into the season. You actually have them as a wild card team this year. So with the Lions and the Raiders coming in, kind of looking like teams that have restructured, rebuilt themselves, what were your first thoughts in looking at that particular matchup for the Lions and the Raiders?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I'm excited. That game's gonna be on prime time. Raiders, Lions. That should be a good one. For the schedule there. And I'm in this weird area right now, Heidi, because like at work, I'm grading drafts, I'm grading free agency, I'm grading overall offseason moves, and then I'm doing record predictions for down the line. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I have the Lions in the wild card, and multiple things can be true. Like I really like the Lions offseason, but there's like this weird thing in the NFL. Like it's not predictable. It's always different, and these teams have to prove it to you that they can get over that hurdle. And it's big for the Lions to be on the Week 1 game against the Chiefs. It's big to be on prime time against the Raiders. But for me, you got to prove it. You got to be that franchise that says, you know what, we're not that same disaster of a franchise with the Lions have been for many years. And then you get Jameson Williams to be suspended for 6 games. I'm like, what are you doing? And then you kind of reach for a running back in the draft, Jamar Gibbs. You
Mm-hmm.
reach for an off-ball linebacker, Jack Campbell. And I'm like, are these the same lines? And I can't figure it out. So I think for me, it won't be as bad as last year where they lost 5 games in a row, but they're going to take a while to get in there. And I think the next step, they're going to take baby steps. So the next step for them is to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they'll make it as a wild card. So, and I feel like maybe the Raiders and the Lions are in that same level. Yeah, the Raiders don't get the offseason hype that the Lions have gotten, but they got to show you first and build and create steps. And for the Lions, that's where I need to see it first before I get in that really crowded bandwagon that they currently have right now.
Yeah, the Chargers actually kind of trolled them in their season schedule release video that was on Twitter. Did you happen to see that?
Yes, I did. The
Because you
anime,
mentioned
right?
Jameson Williams and what
Yeah,
happened with the
and then
gambling.
if you need help with gambling, here's a hotline. So
Yeah, they gave out the hotline number, something to keep an eye on for anyone who seriously maybe need it. Don't want to take away from that, but it
yeah.
is funny that they did kind of troll the team there, and also a lot of others. They went to work. It was kind of crazy, that video. Looking over it, when you see a team like the Packers, now without Aaron Rodgers. We know last year they're working with, rookie wide receivers. How much more the other young studs are going to step up for this team, particularly Jordan Love, right? That's the big question mark. What does Jordan Love look like? Because I believe in his first outing, he threw 3 picks, right? And the first time he was a starter for the team.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that and the inaccuracies that he's had, but the time that he's also had behind Aaron Rodgers to grow, I think that's been one of the good things about the Packers and the way that they have unleashed their quarterbacks into the wolves den, if you will, because what they've done is over time, look at Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers had time to work under him. Now the same perhaps for Jordan Love. What was your take on the Packers and what kind of team they're going to be as the Raiders begin to face them as well in the season?
Yeah, Jordan Love came in after the hit that Aaron Rodgers took, and I was very impressed because he was doing a comeback, he was well composed, he was running the scheme well, and then getting the ball to Christian Watson. I know that wasn't like the best throw, but getting the Christian Watson the ball in space for a 63-yard touchdown was big. He had another one, a laser to Aaron Jones. So I seen the flashes with Jordan Love, and I think they could be a surprise, but they're very young, and I don't know, maybe it could be a winnable game for the Raiders. But for me, I feel like there was some kind of negativity in the air with Aaron Rodgers, and you kind of get rid of that. But it's also you can't really grade them so well in the offseason because they lost a future Hall of Famer. So it's a very weird dynamic. So it's kind
Yeah.
of banking on what if and for youth to pay off. And I like Jordan Love, like I mentioned. I like their draft. Lucas Van Ness on defense to go over Sean Gary and Preston Smith. They actually have a very good defense. It might be the best defense in the NFC. You got Jair Alexander. So if these young weapons pan out for Jordan Love and he puts it together, the offensive line is a little shaky, but that is going to be my surprise team in the NFC for 2023.
I love that you have a big surprise there. What I'm not so surprised by is the record that you gave the Bears, 5-12. The Raiders will face them on the road October 15th. Wait, excuse me, October 22nd, the Raiders will face the Bears in Soldier Field. So I wanted to take a look really quick here at what they have because some of the things that you mentioned, like Justin Fields really needed to prove himself as a franchise-worthy quarterback. That was interesting to me. They did trade for DJ Moore. How that works out, chemistry, all of those things. It's going to be an interesting camp for this team. What do you think happens with these two teams as they face each other? Interestingly enough, your colleague put the Raiders at a 5-12 record for this coming season. And the Bears you put as a 5-12 record as fourth in the NFC North. Raiders he has as last in the AFC West. So curious here, how do you think these two teams will really match up?
Yeah, again, another very interesting team I thought the Chicago Bears had a great offseason. And me and Matt, my coworker, we're different a lot. And I think that's what makes it kind of unique having different opinions
For sure.
and seeing what he's doing. And I think the Raiders are further along in their project to become a winning team again. And I know last year was very clunky because they got Devontae Adams, and you wanted to win now, but the roster wasn't ready. But now I feel like the roster's getting better, but you don't have the hype anymore. See, with the Bears, they don't have any expectations to make the playoffs, but that doesn't mean they didn't have a great offseason. I thought the Bears had a fantastic offseason to potentially be a year. They're like a year away from being a year away.
Yeah.
That's a good position to have because to get a number one wide receiver in DJ Moore, and yeah, there might be mixed results there as a number one for DJ Moore. He's still pretty good. You get two quality linemen and Nate Davis from the Titans. You get Darnell Wright, the rookie from Tennessee, to help out Justin Fields. I know on defense, linebacker is not really a luxury, but they got TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. And so there's a lot of parts there to finally fill a competitive roster. Yeah, you might not, be a wild card team, but step forward, you'll take steps forwards. And I think last year they had like 3 victories, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that. So it is still kind of a bump there. But I think for the Bears, ignore the record and focus more like, oh, they got some guys now. Oh, that's some promising player. Oh, he flashed right there. So the year after, maybe it won't be a rise like the Detroit Lions, but the year after, like, hey, you know what? A sneaky, maybe wild card team, but they're still a year away from being a year away.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about all of these teams here that are kind of growing. Interesting, another one that I think showed a huge stride last year that may become a force depending on how Daniel Jones and company works out with all of the moving parts. And the just what Brian Daboll did was just brilliant with this team, how he really went to their strengths. And I think, and just it wasn't like he tried to change them. He worked with the strengths that the team had and made that better. And it became just a team that I don't think anyone saw coming. The Giants, obviously, November 5th in Allegiant. What have you made about the Giants roster moves in the offseason? What kind of opponent they make for the Raiders?
Yeah, well, first of all, Heidi, you're catching me at a good time because we started the series at SI where we're grading the offseason moves of
Nice.
every team, and I have the NFC, and I think last week the NFC South came out, but I want to say Wednesday the NFC East is coming out, so the Giants are on top of my head. The NFC North is going to come out Thursday, so I know these teams very well. And for the Giants, first of all, I think you got it right with Brian Daboll because it is a little cheesy to say like, hey, Brian Daboll got the team to believe. It was good coaching and players coach, working off the strengths of the players and not trying to make them fit in terms of their coaching scheme. But I think once you get players to buy in, that's a big thing. And I know maybe Daniel Jones is not a superstar quarterback, but if you're telling that guy, hey, I appreciate what you did improving my first year, we're gonna pay you. And I think it goes a long way to saying, hey, if you do something in this franchise under my watch, you're gonna get repaid. You're gonna get rewarded. And that's what happened with Daniel Jones. You're seeing it with Dexter Lawrence. I know Saquon Barkley is trying to get the bigger bag, but
We'll
maybe he'll
see.
get it. They're
We'll
trying.
see.
They're trying. So I don't know what's going on there, but they're building something special. I feel like, and it's tricky to figure out the Giants because you and I probably have different opinions of Daniel Jones. He is not an elite quarterback,
I don't
but
have him on elite. No.
so Brian Dable views him some type of way, and it's a very good way because they paid him $160 million in the offseason. But so that kind of throws off the whole roster dynamic. But if you feel like he's a franchise quarterback, it's a very good roster because I really like what they did in the draft. Deontay Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland, I think was underrated. Uh, they also got the center John Michael Schmidt, and I think you know in free agency, they had some good pieces in Paris Campbell, the wide receiver, and as you know, Darren Waller got traded to the Giants to help out Daniel Jones and Heidi. Like they don't have a number one wide receiver on this roster, but they got much better from a year ago because now they have like 6 or 7 dudes, and training camp's gonna be very intriguing because, like I mentioned, Campbell, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Wan'Dale Robinson. Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee, the rookie. So there's like 6 or 7 guys there that they're actually burners. They could be downfield threats. And last year with Daniel Jones, one thing I noticed, Heidi, was I think Brian Day was trying to feel out Daniel Jones, like, hey, let me put the training wheels on for the scheme and just kind of give you the basics. And if you could cut down the turnovers, we'll let her rip next year. And that's what happened because he cut down the turnovers. He was a very conservative manager, and now he has the weapons with Darren Waller at the forefront, and Saquon Barkley being back. So we'll see what they do. But I really like the Giants, but it just hinges a lot on what Daniel Jones does in year 2 under Dable.
We're breaking down all things with the Raiders schedule here today, but I also want to talk about some of the moves because obvious moves like Jimmy Garoppolo, how that works for this team, bringing in a tight end like Michael Mayer to pair with him that they're calling Baby Gronk. What, first of all, did you think about just the overall look, like you mentioned earlier, that the Raiders have made some moves here on their roster to improve, to show that this is a team like the Giants that can perhaps be a sneak up on your team, make a wild card spot? What do you think about? I'm putting wild card in your mouth, by the way. You didn't say that, but
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to get your take overall on what you think about this team, the Raiders, and comparing it to kind of what your colleague, I keep saying friend, your colleague said about that, being that they would be fourth in the AFC West with a 5-12 record. How do you look at this team? No pressure though. No pressure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about 5-12, but I think I agree with him that I don't think they're ready to be a playoff team. I'm sorry, a Raider Nation here, but I think you're seeing steps forwards here, and I think maybe 7, 8, 9 wins. They're gonna be competitive, and I think that the thing I really appreciate here is that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are doing it their way and figuring out, okay, can we do this thing here? And if you don't, I always say with new coaching staff, if you don't see some results, something promising in year 2, something that's growing, like that plant behind me, just getting bigger and bigger, You got to see it in year two. If you don't see it in year two, you start scratching your hand thinking, okay, is this the coaching staff? Is this the front office? In year three, becomes very pivotal there. But so I think you kind of go off of the Bears, what I was mentioning with the Bears earlier, and it's not in terms of wins and losses, but can you see potential? Can you see growth? And especially in the AFC, it's so crowded. Maybe people are saying, okay, stop giving us a compliment sandwich and just get on with it. So I'll say this: the free agency was a little mixed for me. I'm like, okay, you're going with Jimmy G. Jacoby Myers is not like a legit number one, but you have Devontae Adams. That's okay. That could be a good number two there. And Jimmy G, at the end of the day, he wins ball games and he makes things easier for your coaching staff because he knows how to operate a scheme there. So that right there just kind of tells you, hey, average team, they could be in the mix, maybe 8-9 wins. And then I think the draft set it apart in terms of the first two picks. After that, it was kind of a head scratcher because you didn't really focus too much in the secondary. You need more pieces defensively, even on the offensive line. But to get Tyree Wilson, pick number, I think it was 7 or 8, I already
Yep,
forgot.
7.
7. He might not be as polished as Will Anderson, but his ceiling is bigger. He had 7'1" wingspan. He could be a monster down the line. And the best part about being a raw prospect, he doesn't have to do it right away because you have Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and he can learn. And then to get, I think, a Michael Mayer in the second round was big for this team
Yeah.
overall. So I really like the draft. I really like free agency.
I wanted to take a look a little bit here at the Raiders schedule for 2023 because overall, when you look at it, you mentioned it's not a wild card team, probably. But as we know, anything can happen. We've been a part of these runs where you watch a team go in and they surprise you. They come up with things and structure that really makes sense. So what I wanted to break down was just the travel end of it for the Raiders, starting the season 2 games away from the Broncos to the Bills. Now that's one state on the West Coast, one state on the East Coast. Then they come back to face the Steelers in prime time on September 24th at 5:20, and that's their first home game 3 weeks in. But then they go back on the road. Well, not really the road because we all know what SoFi looks like on a Raider game, right, Gilbert?
Yep, yep. I'm
The
not gonna front
Chargers.
there. It's
So
definitely silver and black.
yeah, so looking at that first quarter, the first 4 games there, just thoughts the travel involved of the team bouncing out 3 games out of 4 away on the road. I mean, does that you think have any kind of impact on how you look at the schedule?
A little bit, and I'll say this: they better win that first game at Denver, and
Mm.
it's not a long flight there, but it's a winnable game. We don't know what Sean Payton's going to do. Again, the NFL is so quirky and different that maybe just a different voice, a coaching staff could switch it around for Russell Wilson. I don't know, but you better win that game. And after that, at Buffalo, like you mentioned, it's a long flight there. Might as well be a different country. It's pretty much Canada, right? And then Pittsburgh is a rising team. You get them at home, and you play Kenny Pickett, but Mike Tom's going to coach that team. They're always tough there. And then the rivalry with the Chargers there, and LA is not that far. So maybe you got to go 2-2. I feel like to definitely be a legit contender. But if you go 1-3, it could be very ugly for this team.
And then what's interesting too, you think about the bye week, it's not till week 13. So
Oh yeah,
that means they have to, like you said, get in there early, stay healthy, make these road trips, and as well as thinking, I kind of like the late bye week, considering that it is an 18-week season, and that kind of gets them an opportunity to get healthy in case, let's say, they are at that point, week 13, maybe they're at 6-6, that they can get healthy all at the same time and go on a run towards the end of the schedule. I think that could be interesting. But the end of the schedule has again a couple of tough away games. And I'll just jump to the end really quick before we get into the meat of the sandwich, because you have the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Christmas Day, and then you have the Colts on the road. So those are going to be 2 interesting road games back to back there for the Raiders, 7 days apart, going through the holidays, of course, always kind of tough on, I think, teams working out away from family and all of that during that time, being on the road, and then surrounded by Chargers again, but this time at Allegiant on the 14th, and then on January 7th, the Raiders are at home against the Broncos. So you have a couple 3 division opponents there right at the end of the schedule, and of course on holidays and 2 away. How tough is that going to be for a team looking at that from that perspective?
yeah. But like you mentioned, Heidi, maybe having that bye week so late could help you out for that stretch run there if they are in the mix
Mhm.
there. My only concern with the bye week is like it's so late that you're mentally waiting for it, and you're like, oh, just get to the bye week, and it disrupts you, and then you come back, and it takes you a long time to get to it, and you're in the middle of a stretch run, like that could mentally help you, but you never know. It could come at the right time, injury, stuff like that. So, especially when you have to play the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day, it should be a good one there. But winnable games against the Colts, and you close the season against the Broncos. There's something there, and even the Vikings I'm not too kind of high on. The Chargers one, you never know. It could be they always play each other very closely. So uh,
Yeah.
if somehow you come out with that victory at Arrowhead Stadium, yeah, Arrowhead Stadium. Oh no, actually, yeah, it's Arrowhead. So if
Yep.
you get that road game there, like now you're cooking. It could be some noise there because after that, I think every game is winnable. I know again the Chargers could be a swing there, but overall, you come out that bye week, you're probably feeling really good if you win that Christmas Day game.
So in the middle of the schedule, like it'd be the next 4 games at the top. I know I'm bouncing around here, but
You're
so week
good.
5, the Packers, we discussed that. Week 6, the Patriots. Week 7, the Bears, we discussed that. Week 8, Lions, and then week 9, Giants. So we've talked about all of those. So let's jump in to the next part of the schedule, right? You have the Jets at Allegiant. Then you have the Dolphins on the road, Chiefs at Allegiant, and Vikings at the Legion. So it was a good stretch in there of a lot of games bundled up for the Raiders that will be at Allegiant mostly throughout October 15th until December 10th. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 home games in that stretch. So not too
Yeah.
bad going from middle of October to early December with 5 home games, right?
Yeah, definitely. You get the two New York teams back to back at home. They're coming to you. You're not going to the other side. And I'll tell you this, I'm gonna tell my bosses, my editors, hey, I'm gonna do everything I can to get to that game against the Jets on Sunday Night Football at Legion Stadium. Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy G. I'm signing up. That'll be
Yeah.
a good game there. So but that's where it makes the schedule very difficult because they do get to play the very loaded AFC East. You got the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots have Bill Belichick. You never know how they're going to be. But that's gonna be a tough stretch there. Jets, Dolphins, and then the Chiefs right there at home too. So I don't know. Somehow, some way, get for sure get one, but you get 2 out of 3, you're doing well. So it's gonna be tough playing Aaron Rodgers, Jets, and again, you never know. We all assume the Broncos and Russell Wilson are gonna be good. Are we all assuming the Jets and Aaron Rodgers are going to be good? I don't know. We'll figure that one out. And then the Dolphins too are kind of this weird team where they're very stacked everywhere, but we don't really like the quarterback. Some people like Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't know. I got to see him stay healthy. I got to see him do it for a full season,
Mm-hmm.
not for flashes. And it was a good start last year, but I'm really unsure. But I'll say this about the Dolphins: they're going to be freaking fast on offense because they added that Texas A&M running back. Is it Acme? I'm not saying the same right. I feel like, but he was doing really well in college and to join Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. So Tua stays healthy. It could be a nice little shootout there in Miami. So overall, that's a tough stretch there, but you never know in the NFL.
And that's the beauty of it, is that you never know. You think you know, but then you get into the season, you don't know. You don't know anything. Like,
Yeah.
I thought the Titans would be the kings of the AFC South that I didn't think would gonna have a lot of contenders, and here come the Jaguars, right? So it's like you just never know. Um, Overall, I appreciate your time on the schedule and all. I just want to get quick takes on a couple things that I saw happening in with the Raiders today. Marcus Peters, somebody you have some familiarity with, visited the Raiders today. What kind of asset could he be to this team should the Raiders bring him on?
He'll provide an edge. I'll say that. He's always been a player who has good ball skills, good instincts. He's very aggressive, but it also kind of hurts him in the back end. Like you get a couple flags here, you're tugging when your man's beating you in coverage. So it's been a very rocky roller coaster ride for Marcus Peters. And I'm actually doing a story on potential 5 candidates to become defensive rookie of the year. So I was looking at the rookies of the year from the past, and Marcus Spears was one of them. I totally forgot that with the Chiefs there. He's been with so many teams, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Ravens, that
Yep.
he just can't find a home because it's such an erratic play. But he's a player. He does belong on a depth chart. He does
Yeah.
help out. And when you're the Raiders and your secondary is, it needs help. He could be a guy to provide stability. So I think when you focus on other areas on the roster and you neglect one, you try to do like a band-aid work where you get some guys who are veterans that could just be reliable. But after last year or the last 10 years, I feel like Heidi with the secondary, nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, that is definitely True. I have to agree with you there. It's like, they do have some guys with some dog in them. Can't deny that. Amik Robertson is somebody that I think, plays with a lot of heart, as well as Sam Webb, one of the undrafted free agents that they had. How it all comes together with some of the new prospects that they brought in, and how the competition works out for the Raiders could be very interesting, especially if they do bring in Marcus Peters, because I think he would be somebody that a lot of the youngsters would step up to try to compete with for sure, and get an edge on. Lastly, Tom Brady reported as possibly buying into stake with the Raiders franchise. Wow. I think that one hit a lot of maybe Raider fans in the gut, just because we all know what happened with, I'm not even, we know. So we know, but what are your thoughts on that one? Tom Brady trying to make a stake here in an NFL owner, as an NFL
Well,
owner.
if he's going to be part of the franchise, and does he admit that was a fumble on the tuck rule? Like he actually,
He has
let that
to.
one go?
I
Like,
think he
come
has,
on.
though. I think he has, but now he has to apologize to all of Raider
Yeah,
Nation.
get some closure there. You have the 7 rings, and now you're an owner in the NFL. So
Okay.
you got to admit that part. And then the second part I thought was it kind of feels like MJ when he bought the it was part of the Wizards.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I bought the team. Why can't I just play on the team? Whatever, I do what I want. So maybe Jimmy G is struggling in October, and the team is doing okay. Tom Brady is, you know what, Mark Davis, I'm gonna leave the nice suite. I'm gonna go play quarterback. So I don't know. You never know. But it opens the door for that story there with the MJ and the Wizards. And it didn't turn out well, but MJ was still balling. So
Mhm.
maybe Brady could still do it. But overall, he's a businessman. He does well in the business side. So maybe he sees something there with the Raiders to make some money.
There you go. Well, Roberto, I appreciate all of the time that you gave me today. I really enjoyed the breakdowns of the NFC teams that you had at the time to analyze. And I thank you so much for coming on. Give him a follow on Twitter at Gilbert Manzano. And of course, check out my Compass too, because it is Compass OTB on Twitter. You guys have a great show going. I really love the banter between you and Fernando. I watch it as much as I can. So thank you very much for putting that out there. It satisfies my love for the fight game as well, very much. So appreciate that.
Oh, thank you
Um,
for the time, Heidi, as always.
you bet. Gilbert, give anybody out there what you have coming up, if you'd like to, kind of plug some of your work.
Yeah, this is why you're the pro, because you already got me thinking ahead. Because like I mentioned, I'm gonna do those NFC report cards, the East, the North, and the West come out. I already have the South one, and the South one got some criticism from a lot of people. People are mad for
Ooh,
some reason. People are mad that the Buccaneers
ooh.
are being overlooked. You lost Tom Brady, but Tampa Bay, the fans are saying it's going to go well. So it's 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 hope season, it's optimism season, it's positivity season, and I'm the guy to crush your dreams and the report card. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. Like I mentioned, even if it's a rookie of the years, I'm going to be doing some candidates because after what Sauce Gardner did a year ago, the bar is set really high. And then I think I'm actually going to have a story this week on the most improved teams of the offseason. So I'm doing the full NFL there. So a lot of NFL coverage, and it keeps me busy. But I get to know the seventh wide receiver on the Giants depth chart, things like that.
Awesome. Those are always fun to know. It's always
Yeah.
fun to know. You'll pull a name out of a hat and no one else is looking for it. And that's what we love about you. All right, Gilbert. Thank you again so much for the time. And for everybody out there watching, make sure to follow all of our work at vegasnation.com. Keep up with me on Twitter at Heidi Fang. Thank you, everybody, so much for checking in with us today.